financial literacy, and the human condition. Welcome to Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor, Dr. Francis Rayam.
Hi, it's Francis. I just wanted to take a minute to thank you for watching this video. If you're catching us on YouTube, please help us help others by clicking like, subscribe, and all notifications so you don't miss any videos. And check back for the next video. I think you're going to love it. Thanks again. For more information, you can visit us at hugyourmoney.com.
Welcome to Financial Fitness. I'm Jess Tyler, along with the Money Doctor, Dr. Francis Rayam. Hi.
Hey, Jess, how are you?
I am doing good. What are we talking about this week?
My favorite subject, free. I love to talk about things that are free, right?
Yeah.
But what we're really talking about is value. So, as you know, we talk about a broad area of categories on the show because money infiltrates our lives in all different kinds of ways. One of the really popular things for people to be doing these days is called cutting the cord, right? They're going to figure out some way to cut the cord. They're going to get a streaming service or whatever. Now, there is some argument to be made about that. And there's actually some legislature pending that says that cutting the cord isn't really cutting the cord at all. If you're streaming things through, say, a Roku or an Apple podcast or something of that nature, it's still using the same internet provider that you're paying for, that your regular cable comes through. So there are some people who say that's not cutting the cord at all, and we want legislation to help fix this. Now, on the other side of the coin, there is also a movement to pay less money into local television and local radio kinds of things, especially local TV, public access TV, or community television as it's known. So just as a little history background right now, community television or public access is funded in part by, and largely in part by, cable TV through the Act of 1984 for the cable. They don't love that. Now, what that means is they have to give time on the air to the local public access station. So they do. They don't advertise it. They put you in the guide and it says, you know, there's a little picture of a remote. No idea what the channel is. We've tried many times at GCTV, our local public access TV, to get that corrected, and we don't. Now, that means that it's harder for people. Now, this is going to sound familiar. It's more difficult for you to get the free stuff, right? Why is that? We know
because you don't know where it is. Yeah.
You don't know where it is. And because it's in competition at some level with the money-making stuff. Now, let's talk about what happens on local radio and public access, because what I am promoting here, if you will use that, allow me to use that word, is the idea that what I'm about to tell you will give you not only free access to television and radio that you might not be paying attention to, but also an expanded range of content, more podcasts, more interesting information, more local information, because if you haven't noticed yet, Netflix isn't showing you your local programming, okay?
Right, yeah.
Nor are the satellite stations, right? They're showing you cable and satellite TV. It's places like your station, WHMP, and public access stations like Northampton Community Television in your area, Greenfield Community Television in my area, all across the country where our show gets picked up and is watched by people, because now we videotape the radio show. Could you tell I was a fan of Frasier Cranes years ago? Yeah. So now that content goes across the nation. That means that not only do other places get, you know, people out in Wisconsin, for instance, there's 49 stations that download from a server in Wisconsin, and they can get the Money Doctor show, right? They can get Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor in Wisconsin.
That's incredible.
Yeah, for free. So they're getting any financial coaching that we're doing on the air, any advice that we're giving on the air, they're getting it for free, downloading it from their local stations. Whereas if we were on a broadcast, a network station, they would have to pay for a package to get our show, et cetera, right? Okay.
Right.
So the statistics show that as we're having more layoffs and more closing of newspapers, we're getting less news. We are approaching an election right now. And whenever this show airs, we are always going to be approaching an election, maybe not a presidential election, but what about your local people? And the statistics show that less than half of the people now know who their local mayor or politicians are.
Oh,
They aren't getting access to it because they're watching reruns. Something like 88% of the people watch reruns, and 48% of the people have any idea who their local politicians are. We're talking about reruns like Grey's Anatomy or whatever, right? That's what's getting the time, the watching. That's why they're on over and over again. Those are getting the big numbers. So enter to the picture people at a local level who feel like it's important to give out some kind of information that might help the local public. That means we're turning to stations like yours to get local news on the radio, which, by the way, folks, is free. You're not a satellite radio station. You're a public radio station, right? So I want to talk to you about how that works for you, because I know you've done this at all different stations across the country, and to public access, what we call PEG access stations, for content you won't get anywhere else. It used to be sort of a misnomer that if you were watching local TV, you were getting, I don't know, somebody who, really couldn't tap dancing because they had access to their public access TV. Yes, you will get some of that. Sometimes it's very entertaining, but you will also get really good content because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to survive and thrive by putting on really good local content that you can't get anywhere else. So we have, for instance, the show Baselines on there, which is an arts and entertainment show. We also have Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor, which is about financial fitness, financial wellness, right? If we to that same station, we'll get live local broadcasting of the town meeting or of whatever other meetings might be there. We might get replays, if they had permission to do it, and most do, of sports events that have happened in the area. So do you mind talking to me a little bit about your experience with radio and news and how you think things are different for you at this station than they are at, say, a satellite station?
I mean, I've worked at different radio stations all across the country, from Kentucky to Detroit, Michigan to Providence, New Hampshire. I mean, I do think that radio is always going to be important. And the thing that's happening right now that just, hammers it home is Asheville, North Carolina. They had the hurricane and they couldn't get anything. TV, power, all of that was gone. They've been relying on radio to be able to get any kind of information, to be able to do anything. And that's where local really comes in. Because yes, you can get a million different news stations on TV and radio that are all national, but local people, they were getting information to each other, writing signs, like a handwritten sign saying this road is closed, and really just tuning into the radio to figure out where to get water, where to get supplies, because they had nothing. So it's when people talk about how radio is going away, it's a crisis like that hits, that reminds you that it's more important than ever. That's really what so many people relied on. So many people who were missing family members or friends or people that they knew that lived there relied on the radio to get that information out, to be able to find people and help in recovery.
Yeah, we really can't replace that. The local stations, both radio and TV, when we're talking about PEG access stations, and I'll define that in a second, they are their job is to nail down that local stuff that isn't getting played somewhere else. It doesn't mean that you will only catch local content. I remember there was a show called Homegrown 10 years ago when we were doing the Money Doctor show on GCTV in the studio, and Homegrown was on. Homegrown was the most popular show downloaded in the country on public access stations. It was across the nation. And we started getting picked up right behind Homegrown. And we rode on their coattails because they had so much traffic. And we were on either right before or right after them on many stations. And so people discovered the show, and it became, I wouldn't use the word viral like we use now, which really is huge, right?
Yeah.
But it became very popular. And the same thing is happening now with Financial Fitness, and we're seeing it. It's a sort of an organic thing. And it means that your sponsors get picked up and they go with you. So if we have, for instance, we're about to gain a new sponsor, I won't say who it is quite yet, but it's a local education facility. And they are expecting to be played locally, which they will get. They will also, because they have an adult education arm and they're a sponsor of our show, they will get picked up across the country. And so people in Las Vegas will see them, people in Santa Cruz will see them, people in Wyoming will see them, any place across the country that's downloading the show, they'll get that exposure at the same time. So that means if you're we talk about so many money-saving things here, not just cutting the cord for individuals, but how you can capitalize on something like this if you're a business. These stations require, in your case in radio, they require advertising. And in the case of public TV, they require sponsorship. Think Sesame Street, right? Sesame Street doesn't have an ad on it. It has Sesame Street has been brought to you by or underwritten by or sponsored by.
Right.
Those kinds of things are allowed with certain parameters. So that's a very inexpensive way for you, relatively speaking, to sponsor a local show, to feel good about it, and get picked up either very much locally through many of these stations who all cover towns around, or across the country if the show is getting picked up that way for, ridiculously low money compared to just going on to a national TV campaign. So for small business people, this might be a way to improve your bottom line or actually compete. Even for large businesses, if you can really afford to sponsor some shows or take spots, on a local radio station and get those multiplied, like your radio station, WHMP, is a Saga station. Saga owns, however many stations. And they just, I don't know, last count, I thought it was 26, but there's probably a lot more.
I should know the answer to this, but I don't know.
Anyway, that's what happened with us too, is we went on one Saga station, we get picked up on other Saga stations. So it's a way for you, if you're a content creator, to create a lot of interest. And once it gets picked up in these places, search engines find you. The other day, somebody told me that all of our podcasts were available on Amazon.
Oh,
every audio podcast we've done is available on Amazon. And I thought,
that's great. Yeah.
Let me go look. And sure enough, there's all our podcasts. And as soon as I went to look, I said to the person, oh, I bet that's because of my connection with BBS Radio.
Right. And it got picked up.
Satellite kind of radio that got picked up there, and they feed it out to everything else. And so it's on Roku and it's on Amazon. And so this is what people, I think, are underestimating when they're thinking about putting something on a local, like a PEG access station. I promised I would define that. PEG is for public educational government. So most of these stations, excuse me, we throw this lingo around like everybody knows what PEG access is. Public educational government. So most of these stations have 2 channels at least, sometimes more, and a radio station, a low frequency, usually radio station, right? That happens right in their local area, like the Asheville stuff you were talking about. So that means that there's a public access channel for people who have something like we have, which isn't government related, but is useful to the public. Then there's the educational level, which has to do with high schools, colleges, cable access stations that have educational content. So it might be, what's happening on the campus, what's happening around the campus. Maybe there's a band playing locally that the students are in. And these can be student-led productions as well. So that's the educational arm of it. And then the government arm usually is on another channel completely. And that really is government related stuff. It's your local meetings. It's what's going on in town. Who's got something to tell you that is government related, to the office or whatever. So those are the 3 arms that a PEG access station is made up of. And PEG access is another name for community TV, public access. It's all the same thing. It's all
TV you can get for free.
Yeah, and it's free, and you're going to get it from your local station. You got to dig a little to find it, but guess what? Almost all of these stations are also streaming. So if you turn on your your guide to your cable TV and you find, I'll just pick one out of the hat, a channel 15, a channel 17, whatever it is, you find that channel and all it has is a picture of a remote and it says guide, and you go there and there's nothing, just go to the internet and look for that TV station because they're probably streaming their content. That's how they're competing, and it's how somebody like us gets picked up and goes, sort of semi-viral at the moment, right? So, but it's free, and you're going to get more content, different content than you get somewhere else. And you're going to find Jess and I on all those places, even though we're doing this local radio show, which we videotape and turn into a TV show.
And free is good because all the streamers have gone up in price and they continue to go up. But we're going to talk more about this coming up in the second half. I do want to get your phone number.
Sure. It's 413-773-3333.
Or you can go to hugyourmoney.com. We'll be back with part 2 of Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor, Dr. Francis Ram, next on WHMP.
Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor is sponsored by Hug Your Money. So unique, it's patented. Financial coaching and more information at hugyourmoney.com.
Welcome back to Financial Fitness. I'm Jess Tyler, along with the Money Doctor, Dr. Frances Ram. Hi.
Hey, Jess, thanks for hanging in there with me. People listening might be saying, why is the Money Doctor talking about this? And it's not that I'm talking about myself. Unfortunately, I have to use myself as an example because when I talk to people about local radio or local TV, they look at me like, local? What, local? I got cable.
Yeah. And they're probably thinking, like, what am I going to find on local? Like, you think it's like one old TV band show or something.
I think they might be thinking that, but the younger generations are starting to really find this and use it, and we'll talk about why. But because it is thriving, I use that word carefully because they need dollars. I mean, there's still lots of cutbacks, especially in local radio and public access TV.
Yeah.
Most stations are really struggling for money, which means, by the way, if you folks are listening to this and you'd like to sponsor a show, our show or others, you need to get in touch with us because your money will go a far distance with this and you'll get used the way we're talking about. I mean, we have a whole sponsorship package that shows where we're getting exposed and we have to keep updating it. Oh, we have to add Roku. Oh, we have to add Apple. Oh, we have to add iTunes. We have to add iHeart. I mean, it just keeps spinning off. It's like taking on a life of its own. And so that is really valuable. We create good content, and therein lies the key. If we were not creating content that was useful to people, the stations wouldn't play us.
Right.
And they play us every week. And some of these stations are playing us, most of them are playing us 2 or 3 times a week. Some are playing 5 to 8 times a week.
Well, and you're getting on demand streams too, because people can listen whenever they want when you're streaming.
That's right. And so what they do is they download different episodes. I mean, we have so many episodes in the can, as we say in the business, right? So many episodes in the can that they just go and look for something they like. And then every now and then we do a special show. Like stations actually wrote to us recently and said, do you have any Halloween content? Anything for October? And we dug through the archives and came up with the Debt or Alive game show, which was absolutely hysterical. I mean, you're able to laugh at yourself. It was pretty darn funny. And that was done in 2015, I think.
Wow.
When we were doing the Money Doctor show, or maybe 2016, when we rolled out the first book, Debt or Alive. And we did this game show and people showed up, they registered, they competed, they wore crazy
I love it.
costumes, they played.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just great fun. But they took that and ran with it. So that's playing in October on a lot of these stations. So talk to me a little bit, if you will, about your role as a local radio station when it comes to the education around this area, not so much the government, but local universities and colleges. Do they advertise on your station? What's your tie with those? Because you're in a 5-college area.
Yeah. I mean, we do a lot of work with them. I'm not on the sales side. I'm on the, on-air side. So I couldn't give you an educated answer on it. I will say that it's hard to get people to advertise. They don't look at it as you're looking at it, where, for example, with your show, you're getting the bonus of all these other avenues. For us as well, if you advertise, you're also getting streaming, which is part of it. We also work with people on digital, which is a huge part of radio now. It doesn't have to be exclusive. Digital is separate from radio. They go hand in hand. You hear something on the radio, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to go look it up. Yes. So if you've got one person doing, both of those things, like you said, you've got to kind of look where you're going to spend your money. Where are you going to get those bonus, or what we like to call added on value?
Yes.
And that's kind of what I look at. The benefit here, I think, is just, it is local. You've got all the local schools here, and we really focus on being local, which a lot of the bigger stations don't. A lot of the bigger stations, it's all, you might have somebody doing the morning show that's from LA or from Nashville, and they're on 100 stations.
Yes.
So it's just kind of homogenized.
Yeah, they're just plugged in, right? Yeah, well, that's what they do. They take the popular shows that are syndicated and download them. And so we've tried to go a different route with financial wellness, because first of all, it would cost us a fortune to get the amount of time that we get on national TV. And to
Right.
be able to say something other than a soundbite, to be able to tell people, for instance, hey, here's another way you haven't thought of possibly to get free TV and free radio and get more
Mhm.
content and local stuff. And by the way, if you're a business, knock, 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 here's opportunity, right? So we would never get that otherwise. But we get it because we've done this sort of grassroots campaign. What worked for us at a local level as 15 years ago is still working for us now. That's why I'm still on radio, haven't left radio for 15 years
I know, I
every
can't believe it's
week
been
on
that
several
long.
stations.
Yeah.
Haven't left radio. Somebody reminded me of that a few months back. It was another DJ, and he said, you know what? It's good that you do some of your own ads because your voice hasn't left radio in 15 years. And I
Well,
thought,
it's familiar. Yeah, it's familiarity,
amazing.
and people like that. It's a comfort, you know?
It is. And so when you have something that works, don't fix it, right? If it's not
Yeah.
broken, don't fix it. So where we have what worked for us locally here, right in our little area, in this enclave, so then we just pick it up and take it across the country. And it turns out that because of the development in streaming and the development in internet technology and the development
Yeah.
in putting our radio show on TV through the power of Zoom, right? Or another
Yeah.
virtual access, because of that, then I'm talking directly to people in Wyoming, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, you name it, we're out there, New York, Connecticut. That would all be frightfully expensive for us to do. I want to point out that there are no advertisements on public access TV. It's not an ad. We're not out there going, buy my product, right?
Right.
The sponsorships are very specific. They say, here's a typical sponsorship. Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor is sponsored by Jess Tyler. Whatever your motto is, here's your phone number, and there is your website address. Now, that is probably a 15-second spot, or 15-second sponsor spot. It's enough for people to know where to find you. And if you have a great tagline like ours is "Hug Your Money, so unique it's patented," they get that right? And then they go find you. And that is in my opinion, a much softer, nicer way to not be bombarded by 10 ads before you can see your movie.
Right.
To watch some local content, get a 15 seconds. Oh, that company sponsored them. In the old days, we used to be sponsored by a liquor company and, places like that. And now we are sponsored by educational facilities more and more and other places. So I think it's just something that, although I did want to talk about it because I think it's a valuable asset that we will lose if we don't find more philanthropists or more people willing to donate to the stations. You can donate your time. You can volunteer. There's an incredible wealth of, at least at the TV station, there's an incredible wealth of experience. There are people who know film production. There are people who teach you how to edit. They will rent or even lease for free, let out for free video equipment and train you on how to use it. They have
Yeah, that's
talks with
incredible.
the schools. They do programs with the schools. They film all your local stuff. I mean, it's really amazing, all at a non-commercial, non-advertising level. So if you are willing to provide content that is valuable, then you can do this sort of thing. So just to tie that in, Jess, what I'm saying is this might be a way for you to lower your costs. If you're an individual and you want some free TV or some free radio, go find these stations. If you only stream, if you don't catch it in your local area, you can stream WHMP anywhere in the country, right? It's streamed.
For sure. And I do think that a lot of people, especially if you're an advertiser, you're thinking like, oh, I can't afford that. I can't afford, for example, your show, you're on all these different places across the country. Well, if you brought that up, people would think, oh, there's no way. But this is way more affordable than you think. And you're right. It's different than doing something nationally on a main channel.
What I'm giving you folks right now in this little, financial fitness show that maybe seems like I'm talking obliquely about finance. What I'm giving you right now is either a way to get better content, broader content, and your local stuff for free if you're an individual, or if you're a business, a way for you to stretch your dollar beyond belief. You can get the national kinds of streaming and exposure on other stations that people watch and access to things like Amazon and Roku and Apple and all of that stuff that you think is going to cost you a fortune
Yep.
by sneaking in the back door,
Mhm.
if I dare say it, with local radio or your local public
Local
access
TV.
TV. But,
Yeah.
Jess, the reason I'm doing this show today is because I've talked to a lot of people about this over several years. And
Mhm.
everybody seems like it's really murky. It's really hard to understand. I've never done a show about it. This is the first time I've ever talked about it. And I will tell you, it's not easy, but it's fairly simple. And if you can produce good content, which you could
Mhm.
start either at the radio station or you could start at a TV station and have somebody help you, train you on how to produce content. You could take your brand for your company, or you could just hitch your start of their wagon, right? If they're producing content and you're the company, just sponsor somebody who's producing good content.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll give you some crazy examples that just pop into the top of my head. I don't know that these shows exist, but I'm just going to say, here's a show that might work well on a public access station. You're a ballet teacher and you teach 6-year-olds ballet. Now,
Mhm.
all right, you're not going to get national coverage on this, but publicly, local people would love to see their own children and get all their friends to watch. And it might pick up because it's really charming. It's really entertaining. You might be a local pet wrangler, same kind of thing. If you're personable and you can map out a show and you can string your thoughts together and you can produce something that stations want, then you might go shopping for some sponsor dollars to help out. This is not a money-making proposition. From the standpoint of a content creator, let me say, I don't get wealthy on my show, right? I
Mhm.
don't even probably cover my costs all the time because we're always expanding. But sponsors help out with the cost to produce the show because they want to help someone learn something about finance, and it's not their job to do it directly. And in the battle, in the mix, they win by getting their name out, getting their brand out. And it's the same on radio. I mean, the reason I'm not trying to be courteous, tossing the radio thing to you, although it might seem that way to people. The whole point is we started this round, this financial fitness with the Money Doctor. We started this on radio. Now, the
Mhm.
Money Doctor show, 10, 15 years ago was at GCTV in the studio. But I
Yeah.
had grown to a point where I didn't have time to be in the studio every week filming a show. So we came up with this idea, hey, let's just take this radio show that we've got, we'll videotape it. We make it, gives pretty beginnings, endings, sponsors, all of that, and it goes into a TV show. So we're more closely tied than you might think listening to this. But we are, in fact, a local radio station. You're about 30 miles from me. And a
Mhm.
local TV station, which is about, I don't know, a mile and a half from me,
Yeah.
right? Doing this together. And we've both seen this grow from really local, like, how do you find Channel 15, to we're all streaming. We're on Apple, we're on Roku, we're on YouTube, we're on,
Right.
I mean, the other day somebody told me we're on Amazon. That was a surprise to me.
I love
didn't know
that.
I'd be on
Yeah.
Amazon. And
Yeah.
you're right there with me. So that's how this works. And I think if we can continue to do this and we can bring in sponsorship dollars, if people can recognize that this is a valuable asset that we will lose. 48% of the people don't know who their local politicians are.
Mm. That's troubling.
We can't have that and continue to have good government. Here's my parting thought. When you think local, think national.
All right. What's their phone number for people to get a hold of you at?
Sure, they can reach us at 413-773-3333.
And you've got your website up at hugyourmoney.com. We'll be back next week with another edition of Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor, Dr. Francis Ram, right here on WHMP.
Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor is sponsored by Hug Your Money. So unique, it's patented. Financial coaching and more information at hugyourmoney.com.